Good morning. Greetings from Taiwan. Welcome to this professional forum with the theme of smart tourism, a nexus of digitization and sustainability. My name is Iris Loy, and I'm the chair of this forum. It's great that we can still meet online and share knowledge on sustainable development for the future, even with the heat of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's only possible because of technology. And with the advent of technology, smart tourism has become a popular topic. It is the application of information and communication technologies such as Internet of Things, mobile communications, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence, and etc., for developing innovative tools and approaches to improve tourism. People believe that smart tourism will help tourism destination to grow and become more sustainable in economic, environmental, and social cultural aspect. And at the same time, enhance the overall satisfaction of tourist experience by enable them to obtain better service, communicate, and interact during their trip. Today, we are very honored to have 3 speakers from 3 different countries to share their smart tourism projects with us. Our first speaker is Dr. Michael Lin from MIT Media Lab in the United States. He is a future mobility expert who specializes in complex urban systems. Our second speaker is Professor Soo-Ki Lee from Sejong University in South Korea. He is the director of Tourism Industry Data Analytics Lab, which specializes in analysis of structured and unstructured data to provide insights on the state of tourism industry. Our last speaker today is Mr. Boris Isaf from Canada. He is the co-founder of Park Pass and will share with us the story of Park Pass today. So without further ado, let us welcome our first speaker, Michael.
Hi, thank you, Iris. Let me share my screen. Great. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. All right. So hi, everyone. My name is Michael Lin, and I'm a research scientist at MIT Media Lab City Science Group. There are many overlaps between the topic of smart tourism and smart cities. And today, I want to share with everyone some of the research that we do related to this topic. So at MIT, we like numbers that help us to understand how city works. Okay, that should be an animation. All right, and so what you see right now is actually a data-driven decision-making platform that helps not only the scientists, but also non-experts to understand the movement pattern of people in the community. We help government and people to design their cities using Lego bricks, simulations, and also simulations, so they can better understand how design impact the quality of your neighborhood. As you see the radar part that indicates like the diversity, proximity, and the amenities in your neighborhood on the upper left-hand side of the screen. So we also like to explore spaces that respond to human need. Imagine this is your hotel room or Airbnb, robotic technology that could actually help people to live large in a small space, especially during the time of quarantine. Can you actually turn your apartment into your personalized gym? So these are some of the issues that we're looking at. My main focus, however, is actually focusing on moving people and goods around the city. I lead a team of researchers at MIT, building low-speed self-driving vehicles that is friendly and tourists won't get lost when you ride it. The ideas that I mentioned earlier are actually supported through the scope of science. What you see right here is the combination of LiDAR point clouds with the sensing and computation and algorithms that actually supports the vehicle to make the decision. So I want to share with you guys an exhibition that we did at the Cooper Hill Museum in New York. So LiDARs can give us an idea of what the environment looks like. And also the computer vision helps us to understand human expressions. Gesture control, robotics, and also some other techniques allows us to establish connections with people. We put together these techniques not only with only one single purpose, to understand human better and to provide a better service, we often challenge ourselves that the best MIT project should create not only impact to our society, but also uniqueness and also a little bit of magic. So as you see, the vehicle, we add a couple of eyes, so you know, to interact with the people. Here's another example of how we understand human. We work with IKEA to add sensors to the kitchen cabinet. The yellow balls in the screen are actually the sensors that we added to the cabinet, and the white balls that move around in the screen indicates the process of how these cabinets are used when preparing a dinner. The size of the transparent ball and the color indicates how often they are used. This helps us to understand the behavior and how human moves around in the kitchen when preparing a meal. Can we actually redesign the hotel rooms using the same techniques? So this is an example that using the same method as the kitchen, my colleague actually spin off a company, All Resistance, that's making robotic furniture. The goal is to transform a small space using sensing, actuating, and robotic furniture. And this allows us to reinvent a smart hotel room that are more space efficient, and designers could pack multiple functions into one tiny room and maximize the utilization rate of the space. So some of these ideas are actually currently adopted by Google to retrofit their existing dormitory. So we developed a series of sensors that so the sensors that we use in this project are actually called termites. Termites have been involved into a family of open source sensors that could help us to monitor many different things: humidity, temperature, presence, ambient light, or even CO2. So with a graphical front end, should be moving now. So with a graphical front end, user can actually receive data from termites and monitor the quality of the space in real time. So this is just a video that's showing you how the termite works. Next slide. So in addition to hardware, we like to design, we like to make things. So this is an AR applications that you can use the tablet. That's on your tablet, you can install on your tablet to understand, and this similar approach could actually deploy to guide people for wayfinding in museums or even finding a USB socket in your hotel room. So with the support from our sister labs in Andorra, Termites has been deployed to elementary school to collect data for educational purposes. So these are our friends bringing a whole bunch of termites to go to elementary school, install on the wall. And so basically the school used it to teach the students about sensor and data and understand the quality of the classroom, such as temperature. Working with the local energy company, we could also understand how the energy is used and etc. So kids are actually like explorers of the cities. They're young tourists, they're young local tourists in a way, and they see the world differently from the adult. This series of photos show how we use the termite in combination with the interactive apps to engage elementary school students to approach the topics related to sensor and data. The app allows them to map the sensor and the feelings about the surrounding environment and document their moods, the temperature, noise, and also etc. So the result is very much like a map that's a little bit like Yelp that we use. It gives you the rating of different parts of the city, and the map is created by the kids, by the elementary school students, and for other students, and for other kids. So wouldn't it be nice to take kids' interest into consideration next time when we go travel, and let our kids to go around to see the world and then see what other local kids are actually looking at? So in collaboration with a company and government in Andorra, we're also visualizing movement pattern of the user. This actually includes the tourist citizen. So this is the, as you see in the video, this is the Cityscope platform that we're building. And then the goal is to understand the energy consumption of the city. And based on these patterns, we develop simulation tools that allows the stakeholders to take better to make better decisions in the energy sector. The results of the simulation are actually visualized on the evidence-driven decision-making platform that I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this talk. So this is actually a visualization of CDR called detailed record. And we can, using the CDR data, we can understand how tourists, how people are actually traveling around the city. The orange dots represents the tourists from Spain, and the blue dots represents the tourists from France. And this is a 5-day data set between January 1st and to 4th in 2015. The third day was actually a Circus du Soleil. So as you see, a whole bunch of Spanish people popping up from a specific area, and then the data shows us that Spanish tourists are way more interested in Circus du Soleil than the French, than the people from French. So this is how to understand where this tourist goes allows the city to provide a better service for tourists. All right, this is another. So when you combine the CDR data set with the social media, the goal for the project is to understand the behavior in Andorra. And then after mining this data, we will be able to learn the different pattern and behavior of the tourists in Andorra using Asian-based modeling techniques to represent the flow of the people. And the goal is actually to compare normal days with major events, such as Circus du Soleil that I just mentioned earlier, also the Tour de France. So now we know how people move. That's talked about how we actually use the data and to do some of the prediction on the energy demand using these data. So predicting energy using base are actually based on historical data. And with the 2 weeks of energy dynamics using support, and we used the support vector model, our team was able to predict the energy demand with 2.9% of error. Energy prediction is crucial for most of the tourists, as most of the tourists flow into the city during summer and winter. Having a good prediction model of the energy actually allows the country to gear up for the tourist season. So different nationalities are also, the nationality of the tourists is also matter. Different nationality of tourists have different level of energy use. In average, tourists from Germany have a least energy use because many of them actually goes to Andorra for outdoor activities, camping, hiking, mountain climbing, and all those outdoor activities. And then combining the energy data with the visitor data allows the team to gain another 10% of improvements in the error. So which comes to 2.6% efforts of the energy demand hourly prediction. We'll also use the data to do traffic prediction as well. And then let me give you an example. So this is actually a data fusion for dynamic traffic prediction using RNC. It's also telecom data. So through the partnership with Andorra Telecom, 3 months of radio network control RNC data were actually available to us. So the RNC data keeps the track of the location of the devices as they move around in the coverage area. As part of the city science collaboration with Andorra, we use a Bayesian network to build calibrated transportation model for the country based on geolocated telecom data and validate using a small sample of traffic counts. And then the circle on your right hand side is actually the origin and destination pairs. And that allows people to see the travel patterns, how many people are traveling from one location to another. And these are some of the techniques that we use to actually predict the traffic flow. And then and understand the traffic flow is crucial for us. And then our group has been developing a lot of different mobility solutions for the city. So to help people move around the city. So this is one of the examples that we built in the past. And we call it's actually an old project, but I bring it up because now electric vehicle and all this sustainable mobility is such a big, is actually an interesting topic. And so we call this a city car. The city car was invented about 10 years ago with the aim to provide, it's a folder that folds into half, and it's for share use. It's easy to find parking space. And the whole idea was actually, so when you visit a city like Bilbao, you can just rent one and then use it to explore the city. And coming from Taiwan, I'm a big fan of scooters. So I invented this weird affordable scooters with a swappable battery pack concept in 2008 as part of my master thesis. The goal is to provide an alternative mobility on-demand service to the Asian countries. So this is a render that I did about 10 years ago when we visited the city of Milan. Nowadays, you can find the share use bicycle systems that are actually available for the tourists. And that's even, this bicycle system are actually even more affordable and lightweight than electric scooters that I propose. And so it's actually a very good thing that now the tourists have better access to mobility systems worldwide. And lastly, I want to end my presentation with the latest development on mobility solutions that we believe could bring values to the smart tourism sector. All right, so there you go. So combining the best of on-demand service, such as Uber, and the flexibility of the stationless bike sharing program, we propose a new mobility system that's using a tricycle and that carries both people and package, and we call this persuasive electric vehicle. By the way, it's also an autonomous vehicle. So here's a video that we filmed in 2019 before the pandemic. So user could actually, so we developed a working app. So user could actually use the app to reserve for a PEV. Once the PEV arrives, the user will paddle it, ride it as an electric tricycle. So you have human at the full control. When you meet with your friend, PEV recognize the gesture and you can switch to a different mode where the PEV will follow you around, carry your groceries. And with the driver status monitoring system, the PEV can also understand driver's emotion. So this vehicle, this small vehicle is actually designed for low speed environment. And then we are focusing on a lot of human machine interactions. So I hope one day when you come to MIT, when the pandemic is over, when you come to MIT campus, I can show you around with the PEV. And then thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for your sharing. It's very interesting. There are a lot of interesting things that you're doing, from robotic furniture to sensing the traffic patterns and or how people are using space, all the way to your most recent project, the autonomous vehicle. And I believe the audience might have questions later. But now let's welcome our second speaker, Professor Lee.
Thank you, Iris. Let me just start my slide. Okay, good morning to everyone. I would have to warn you that my presentation might not be as interesting as Michael's, because he's a problem solver, so he deals with applications. I probably focus more on the planning part, or strategic planning part. So my presentation is about the research that we did at the Tourism Industry Data Analytics Lab at Sejong University. My name is Sugi, please call me Sugi. And I would like to share with you a result or conclusion of research that we did for the UN Development Program. So we will be having this webinar actually next month with the UNWTO and the Bhutan government. So I will probably try to invite as many of you as possible after this. So once again, my name is Sugi, and I would like to talk a little bit about digital transformation of tourism in Bhutan. So digital transformation, I'm pretty sure that everybody is aware of the concept, and to not bore you and just succinctly discuss the concept, digital transformation, I think you can think of it as an end goal of a larger picture. So it starts with the process of digitalization, which is simply putting information in digital format. After being able to utilize the data, and then the information can be used to improve business processes. And Michael just mentioned a lot of exciting applications. We all know that that has to do a lot with data.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I can only see half of the slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How about everybody else?
I'm sorry about that. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
so
you.
yes, and after that, at the higher level, digital transformation is the economic and societal effects of digitization and digitalization. So we have steps or hierarchy, and I think many of us, in terms of tourism applications, is probably somewhere in between the second or the third tier or level, if you will. So going from weak to strong at the smart tourism level, we can see the exciting applications. I think some of them have been appearing recently because the society has been speeding up its transformation due to the current situation of coronavirus. So importance of digital transformation, it has the potential to boost innovation, to generate economic and environmental efficiencies, increase productivity, including the highly globalized tourism sector. So I think this has been discussed more like a matter of choice before coronavirus. But I think many of the tourism professionals and also academics agree now that it's required for most stakeholders, and also that it does not change simply product or some application, but rather it changes people's way of doing things, processes, thinking, and also how we approach the industry as a whole. So in the decade to 2025, digitalization will create up to $305 billion US dollars of additional value for tourism sector. And I think this is a very conservative estimate. So everything has to do with digitalization. From traditional players, the value will be transferred to innovative business models. And I also work with some of the tech-based companies in Korea, and they are, it seems for Korea, I think the share of transfer will be much greater. So for tourism sector, there has been somewhat of an inequality of digitalization, the level of it, and SMEs, which comprise much of the tourism industry in market share and both value added, they have lower utilization rates, which is one of the actually objectives, relates to the objectives of the government in Korea. So these SMEs need to transform, but they don't have the means to transform. So we try to facilitate and in some cases also subsidize. So consumption habits of millennials and Generation Z drive most of the domestic and international tourists by 2040, who are probably most familiar with digital technology. So people who come to colleges in a few years will be the generation that have started using smartphones since their birth. So for me, I only started using smartphones, let's say, after I went to grad school. But these generations who are more able to fully utilize the technological aspects of smart tourism, I think that would be a market changer as a whole. So best practices and trends in digitalization: facilitating information from specific groups and collecting information for smart management, and physical and physiological accessibility through innovation. These all have to do with new ways of doing things. I think Uber was mentioned by Michael, but Helsinki, Copenhagen, Nice in France, and Malaga in Spain are considered some of the more successful destinations that embrace the use of information and through that achieving smart tourism. So I won't go into details, and I already shared the copy of this presentation with Iris, but yeah, because I have limited time, I'll just try to be efficient. Helsinki regional info share, so government data hub sharing data openly. Brussels entrepreneurship support, so they support entrepreneurship training, innovation, networking in the hospitality sector. Nice as well, and South Korea. So this is a little bit of boasting, one of the projects of title, but we have been monitoring accommodation and by that I mean tourist accommodation, for about 3 years. And all of that has been merged to the big data center, which has newly opened last year by the KTO. So the process now is automated, but monitoring the quality of or standard of tourist accommodation facilities has been an important task for a lot of time. Now, if you just do that manually, it costs a lot, and usually the monitoring is not real time, so it may be affected by the choice of method and also seasonality and changing environment. Now, what we did was to use automated data collection and analysis process so that we monitor real time for any deficiencies in quality of tourist accommodation. Because as a government, South Korea is very interested in, it's all about providing international travelers with good experience. So some more innovation examples that I won't go into details because I would like to introduce the case of Bhutan. So all of this is what you can consider as background information for smart tourism. And there are, what I want to point out is that various levels or stages that each country or destination goes through. So Taiwan is IT savvy, and the infrastructure is quite well developed, whereas tourism economy of Bhutan is important, I'm sure you know, but they're also very concerned about sustainability. So they're not all about mass tourism like Korea. And also at the same time, when we started this project, Bhutan was in a stage where the tourism demand was close to zero, and I think almost zero. So they were anticipating, were hoping for a transition into smart tourism using this window of, let's say, no tourism demand. It's not their fault, but the situation is like that for everywhere. And we were assigned to developing a plan for the tourism industry of Bhutan and digitalizing many of the components that they have. So I'm not sure if you know about the tourism industry in Bhutan, but most of the tourism activities are quite controlled centrally. And I think that model is actually effective when it comes to digitalizing the tourism industry as a whole. So at the point when we were starting our research, there was very poor information access by tourists, only a few select available information sources. Money transfer is also very inconvenient. Payments and disbursements, not very transparent, and visa and immigration processes inefficient, where you have to wait for an extended time to get your visa, and the application process is not very convenient. Visitors illegally taking non-antique items, so they have a lot of valuable antiques, and somehow this becomes a concern for the tourism industry, where tourists might be tempted to take some of that out of the country. And feedback from travelers, probably not something that represents the actual population mean, so to say. So data collection is also that it would be used to improve customer experience is also somewhat biased, we believe. So what we propose for Bhutan is an integrated data hub where the components like the website, portal, guide management system, media library, the visa system, and payment system, tax exemption system would be all integrated into one big hub, which is operated by the data. Now, I'm not saying this is the best solution or optimal solution for all cases, because every country has different objectives and every country have different levels of digitalization. But for Bhutan, we thought that this was possible because the tourism industry, even before, was centrally controlled and managed. So for this specific case, we offered a solution of an integrated data hub, and big pictures like this. So we connect the various solutions. Now I'm confusing you because I already used the word solution here, but the various applications to one big hub. which is a government network. And this is possible because Tourism Council of Bhutan is actually a government agency in Bhutan. So the TCB hub, which is the final plan that we submitted to the UNDP, consists of a one-stop service center, which is the tourism service center, which has the accommodations, activities and attractions, tour operators and transportation. So this information is essential because usually tourism industry in Bhutan do not provide sufficient information, or did not provide before sufficient information for the travelers, and providing information and soliciting reservations by itself is a big improvement. The visa system as well, the current system is almost manual, so to say. So the new visa system will allow a one-stop at the tourism service center, visa application service, and also tax exemption. When the travelers spend money in Bhutan, they can apply for tax return as well. Payments. So exchange is somewhat of a inconvenient process in Bhutan before. It would also be linked to this data hub, and payment application will facilitate not only easier exchange, but also payments, right? Because if you have so many, just a few points to, spatially speaking, exchange your currency, then somehow that might limit your willingness to pay or chances to buy things and spend money. But this, we believe, it also facilitate tourist expenditure. And then also messenger service, which is designed to provide or facilitate communication between travelers and also locals, and the services including itinerary and e-certification. So the reason we propose these applications is because, once again, the tourism activities are quite highly controlled in Bhutan. It has been before. So providing these actually improves the degree of freedom that can be applied to travelers when they are traveling the country. And then resources, we think that something that would also fall into the boundary of smart tourism can be also used to enhance the tourist experience in Bhutan as well. Data usage. So I think the purpose of this research was twofold. So one was to improve customer experience with these applications, but at the same time, in the back end, we think that data collection and usage would be even more important, because this has to be an ongoing process. So the data hub connects all these data that is automatically collected from the applications, and then these would be used to improve quality in a continuous fashion, as well as developing new products, services, and with the aim of improving customer experience. So analyze expenditures, travel behavior, monitor tourism flow, firm performance, also monitor illegal exporting, make processes more efficient, effective. And service providers, they can also benefit from the data. Travelers to, in essence, just make processes more efficient and effective. So we propose this to the UNDP, and also we would be sharing the findings with the UNWTO and Tourism Council of Bhutan. That's the tourism branch of government agency of the Bhutan in June. I guess if you, I would like to ask you, if you have the time to join, please come and join us, so that we can discuss more about smart tourism. But yes, I think I want to summarize the conclusion of my presentation in 2 points. So one, I think that although we talk about smart tourism and innovation, different countries and cities and destinations have different levels, are in different stages of digitalizing. So while there could be very exciting new applications, cutting edge ones like Michael proposed or showed us, there are also destinations that might have different needs for smart tourism applications and technology. Number two, I think different countries have different approaches. So there might be different needs and also environment. And we try to, let's say, find the best solution or whatever works best for that environment. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Lee, for the interesting sharing on this project on Bhutan. I think it's a very unique project given its context. And I would look forward to your results in June.
Thank you.
Another thing that I feel amazing is because everything is so centralized, the data that you collected will be very valuable because you have very complete consumer behavior and spending information that make my mouth watering.
I would like to thank you for your compliment, but we were involved on the planning stage of this project. So right now, I think they are looking for a contractor to start building this. So I wish I could be a part of that as well, but I think because I'm an academic, I would like to get my hands on that data. I'm not sure what the chances are.
Okay.
Wish I could.
Me too. All right. Now it's our finale, Mr. Boris.
Thank you, Iris. And it is an honor to be presenting among such distinguished speakers. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. And good morning, everyone. Actually, good evening. It's still Thursday evening here in Canada. So I'm talking to you from a bit from Thursday. Still, I'm going to share my screen in a second. Just let me know once you can, if you can see everything, okay? You can. Perfect. Awesome. Well, my background, I don't know if you can see by my disheveled look a little bit. I'm a big outdoorsman, and I've been working with parks and outdoor spaces in Canada and in other countries for the last 12 years. The first project that I started about 11 years ago is called Park Bus, and that became a bus network that connected major Canadian cities to national and provincial parks. That project was actually expanded to other countries, including Taiwan. And if you want to hear more about Park Bus project, there is going to be featured later today at the leisure tourism section. So Alex, the co-founder of the project, will be speaking about it. I'm here to talk about the new project that I got involved in a couple of years ago, similarly named Park Pass. And it came from an experience of going to one of my favorite places in BC and in British Columbia, Western Canada, and seeing tremendous overcrowding in some of the most beautiful places. So you have the expectation versus reality. It's obviously even more acutely felt in many places around the world. Canada was one of the last places to feel that, but this really was a push for us to think of something. And initially we said, well, how about we create a reservation system? And I mean, there's nothing new and exciting about reservation systems, but I think that we did it in a way that is kind of cool, and it is now being used by many agencies. So I'm going to go and explain a little bit what we did, and hopefully it's going to be interesting. So the first thing about the reservation system, the Park Pass in Canada, was that the focus of it was not to just limit number of people going to places, but it was to show to would-be visitors what are the alternative destinations. So we tried to use as many tools and techniques as possible to disperse visitations. Instead of everybody going to the most popular park at the most popular time, we wanted to encourage people to go to alternative places, or maybe don't all go on a Sunday afternoon. And the system has been successful at doing that. We also try to digitize the whole experience, whether it's before, during, or after the visit. So obviously, we try to get the would-be visitor involved in the would-be visit process and get them as much information as possible as they made the reservation on the computer or on the phone. While they were in the park, the visitors had a chance to interact with the park staff, and the park staff would be able to see where visitors are. They could they could check them in by using the license plate recognition. They could send them ongoing messages depending on where they are in the park. And after the visit, the park agencies could continue to engage with the visitor, either by sending the post-trip surveys, by encouraging them to visit other destinations. So the whole before, during, and after timeline worked out really well for ParkPass. An example of concrete implementation is Conservation Halton Parks, which is one of the largest park systems in Canada, just west of Toronto, which is where I am based. So it's just an example of the steps with this particular park agency that adopted ParkPass last year, and they were actually the first park agency in Canada to reopen during COVID. So COVID was a big kind of opportunity for us, as a tragedy as it was for the world. It really pushed a lot of government agencies to adopt ParkPass because they saw this as a way to help them reopen safely. And Conservation Halton was actually the first park agency in Canada to reopen last April, I believe, as the first wave was subsiding. So everybody who would visit the parks would have to first of all make a reservation on the phone or online. There would be a COVID-19 questionnaire. They would get their confirmation email with an e-ticket. The system would be integrated with the license plate recognition technology at the gates, so the entry was completely contactless. There would be no contact between the park staff and the visitors. There's been a number of measures implemented in the parks to make sure that there is no crowding on the trails. Everybody who is about to who's in the park gets the visit expiry notification by text or by email, and they also get a survey email. So the park agency captures a lot of the new ideas and the feedback and criticisms that help make the system better. The system has been rated really highly in Canada, and again, it's been used by probably close to a million times by more than 500,000 different visitors. And in terms of some of the screenshots of the system, as you can see, when the reservations are being made, whoever is making the reservations can see some of the time slots. They can see exactly what's available, what's not available. They're filling out some of their information. They're going through the park rules, whichever information the park staff want to see. The tickets are all digital, obviously, and they can be scanned in using the handheld scanners, as well as the license plate scanners. This is an example of the license plate recognition technology, what the park staff sees when the vehicles arrive, and the gate actually automatically opens. The bylaw officers that enforce the rules in the park can also go and use their phones with ParkPass on them and scan the license plates and see if the cars are supposed to be there or not. And the park staff have a lot of back office tools to really take advantage to figure out what's happening, figure out who's coming, what is the data. And that data is making the system a lot more powerful than many other systems around, just because, again, data is the gold in the digital age. And they were able to create a lot of amazing prediction models, a lot of other a lot of models that actually help them adjust their business processes to improve the revenue, improve the visitor experience, and make this experience better and safer for everyone. This is just an example of a screenshot where the park staff can modify when people are coming. An example again of the messaging, so they can be park alerts coming in. We've had situations in parks, let's say a child was lost, so park staff could send everybody in the park an instant message saying there's a lost child, please look out for an 8-year-old girl wearing a blue jacket. If you see her, please call this number. So right away, everybody in the park got this alert. We had an issue where the park was closed because of the big wind and some of the trees fell down. Everybody got a text in the morning to please avoid that area because it's not safe. So the park staff really have at their fingertips the tools to communicate with the park staff that to the park visitors. The park staff can see exactly who's coming in at what time. They can build their own dashboards because the system is integrated with Power BI, for example. So the data that's being streamed out in real time can then be taken by Microsoft Power BI, which is a very popular tool. I'm sure many of you are using it, and they can build their own dashboards, basically figure out what things they want to see in real time, and everything that they see is updated every few minutes, and they can see exactly what's happening. There is even a real-time heat map to see where people are coming from. So this is a super, again, I think simple and practical implementation. And I don't want to bore you with details, but this is just one example of how Park Pass have been used. It's been used in many different contexts. It's now going even beyond parks, where some of the cities and government agencies and even private companies are approaching us to see if, how we can solve some of their problems. But I think it is a really good example and a sneak peek of what we can do, because it's a system that really digitizes the experience and allows the parks or operators, tourism operators, to integrate the experience with a lot of other digital tools. If this is something that I will be happy to answer questions, and here's my email. I'm sure Iris can share the presentation after the fact as well, but I would be happy to answer the questions, and obviously we're happy to work with other countries as well, as we do already in various languages, including some in Asia. So that's all from me, and I look forward to getting any feedback and questions. Thank you so much, Iris, and everyone.
Thank you, Boris, for another interesting story. And I think this all go back to what Professor Liu is based on. You need to digitize before you can apply any solutions to it. We have one question to Professor Lee from the audience. And the question is, this illustration of Bhutan that you discussed in your presentation, can the same be scaled up to a large country like India? India, a large country, lots of people, with multiple tourism products and stakeholders.
So thank you for your question. I think it's a very important question. So most of the solutions that we provide for Bhutan, and we did provide a list of solutions considering the technological infrastructure of Bhutan and availability and the cost of technologies. And I think Bhutan is currently probably in the process of securing the financing sources. Now, if that is sort of, resolved, financing sources, I think the important question is infrastructure and the government's will and control of this project, if you will. So nowadays, I think most of the applications can be mobile based, and at least most of the applications that we proposed for Bhutan is mobile-based, and mobile penetration rate is quite high in India as well. So I think that won't be a problem. But more important would be the government's control over this data, as well as how far they are willing to make this information available to the decision makers and also the industry. So Bhutan is a unique case, and I probably need to reiterate that because most of the tourism activities are quite centralized in terms of control. India, I think, has a wider coverage, but I think mobile technology probably makes it less of a problem. But at the same time, will the government of India have this relationship with the industry and also the application providers that would allow them to sort of operate and maintain a centralized data hub? I think that would be a bigger issue. So to summarize, I probably spoke for too long. It's in terms of technology, quite feasible, but I think more important would be the government's policy on data and its relationship with the industry.
Thank you, Professor Lee. We have another question from the audience, and it was not appointed to a specific speaker, so I guess anyone who's interested can answer. So how can we consider a destination as a smart tourism destination? Is there any measure to sort of say it's a smart tourism destination or identifiers for that? Anybody? All right, Professor Lee.
Yeah, I somewhat feel guilty for answering this question as well, but just for reference, I would like to kindly direct this question to I think there was a recent study. I reviewed this study, and this paper was submitted to the Enter conference. I'm not sure if you're aware of Enter, but there has been work by a scholar. I'm not sure who it is because it's a blind review, but they developed a smart tourism index to compare across cities. So I think if you are, it's not an absolute concept, so you can't really measure it as a binary variable. So that if it's a smart tourism destination, it's 1, and if not 0, but every city is probably somewhere in between. And if you can somehow score your city and compare across other cities in that index, you could probably get a better idea.
All right, thank you, Professor Lee. We have a question to Boris. So thanks for the wonderful presentations. The question is, beside the administrative mechanism, is it possible to integrate the products that are to be seen within the park for the benefit of the visitors?
Shahid, thank you for the question. And yes, absolutely. It's being used for anything from the rentals to actually purchase the products in the parks, to purchase the guiding services in the parks. It's being used in collaboration with private operators. So it's a very versatile system, and it allows the park to not just get people in, but digitize the whole experience. So whatever they do in the park, they should be able to use the technology to make that better.
Thank you, Boris. I guess Michael feels lonely, so I have a question that I would like to ask Michael. In your when you try to implement PEV, do people have concern about the safety of self-driving vehicles? It has been, given the case in the past, there has been accidents in Tesla. So people more or less have doubt on that. So what's your take on the safety of autonomous vehicle?
So this is why I choose a tricycle form as a form factor when developing the self-driving car. I mean, we could choose a four-wheeler. We could choose something that's really a car format that's actually heavy and looks dangerous. And the fact that the PEV is a tricycle dramatically reduce the weight, and then it's operating on a low speed environment. So considering the low speed, the weight is actually a way safer vehicle compared to other traditional forms of automobiles. So I guess the question is actually, can we design a vehicle? Can we invent a vehicle that actually doesn't hurt people? And then so under this kind of assumption, that's why we choose these form factors. And then we've been trying, historically speaking, there's been different iterations of PEV, and then some of them actually wrap around with soft fabric as the exterior to cover up the vehicle. And a lot of when we were doing the testing on the road, a lot of the feedback that we receive is actually PEV looks like a big baby stroller, and then that's non-threatening. And then the fact that it has two eyes, it's creating some interactions and then try to communicate with people. So, we'll try, we have the freedom. We were actually lucky to have the freedom to explore fun projects.
All right, so here is a question to all the speakers. This will be the last question because we have time limits. It seems that practitioners, researchers, and policymakers all assume that tourists willingly and actively become smart by engaging in the process of smart tourism. However, it might not be always true. Is there a problem for the implementations of smart tourism? I guess, Michael or Boris can explain in your case. For example, do people willingly adapt to park bus or PEV?
It definitely can be a challenge, but at the same time, in our case, for example, we try to conform to the accessibility standards and make sure that the solution that we offer can always be used even on older phones. And what happens if somebody does not have internet? What happens if somebody, and that does happen more often than you would expect. So as long as you account for these cases and you make it work, it's usually not a limiting factor, but you have to think about it. It's definitely something that we think about, and I'm sure everybody thinks about as they develop new solutions to these problems.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Michael?
Also we think I often think that technology, policy, and design should all consider together. And this is why at the beginning of the talk, I spent a huge amount of time talked about how we understand human behavior. Because the best technology is not something that you feel smart, it's something that you actually don't feel anything, but it provides some convenience, it persuades some behavior change. And it should be the users doesn't really have to know what's going on, but the technology leads them to the results of the smart tourism. So I guess we have to. So I guess all three things have to put on the table to consider. When we talked about smart tourism, you have to talk about policy. You have to talk about planning as well. That's related to policy, and then you have to talk about how you actually design the apps, and then what kind of new technology and what are the innovations in the technology that could actually support. So I guess Professor Lee and Boris, maybe one day we can all work together with Iris and then try to find a playground in Taiwan as an experiment and try to do something to build a smart technology that that people doesn't feel smart, but you feel the benefit from the technology. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. I believe that we are all interested. We don't have enough time, so I want to again thank all the speakers for your sharing. And this presentations will be available on the conference platform later. So if you are interested, you can rewatch it. And otherwise, if you don't have any questions, thank you all for your participation. Please stay safe and healthy, and bye-bye for now. Bye.